The Indiana Fever, a team long burdened by the weight of expectations unmet and seasons unfinished, finally authored a definitive statement, closing the regular season not merely with a victory, but with a resounding declaration that instantly recalibrated the landscape of the Women's National Basketball Association playoffs. This was more than just a single win, it was the historic demarcation point for a franchise striving to escape the shadow of prolonged mediocrity. On that pivotal night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the Fever humiliated the league leaders, the Minnesota Lynx, achieving a decisive 83-72 victory, a performance so sharp and complete that it belied the struggles and setbacks that had defined the majority of their campaign. For the first time in an entire decade, the Indiana Fever finished the regular season with a record above 500. This achievement, a 24-20 final tally, marks the team's first winning campaign since 2015, an essential piece of evidence demonstrating significant, if arduous, development through the years. It is proof positive that the organization, despite facing an unprecedented series of crippling obstacles, has finally managed to turn the corner from persistent rebuilding toward tangible competitiveness. The victory over the Lynx, regardless of its seeming lack of immediate consequence for playoff positioning, was a fierce repudiation of past failures and a powerful announcement delivered directly to the rest of the league. The Fever are not the team to be underestimated as the playoffs commence. The strong finish was underpinned by several standout individual performances that illustrated the depth and resilience coach Stephanie White has cultivated amidst chaos. Guard Kelsey Mitchell, the star pacing the Hoosiers' offense, delivered 18 points, a disciplined effort that kept her season average comfortably situated above 20 points per game, an impressive, elite feat for the accomplished playmaker. She controlled the tempo and provided the necessary offensive firepower that the Fever needed to maintain separation against a highly strategic, if abbreviated, Minnesota roster. Complementing Mitchell's scoring punch, Odyssey Sims, a relatively recent addition who quickly integrated into the starting lineup, chipped in 13 crucial points. Her transition from a player signed on a hardship waiver to a major contributor is one of the season's most remarkable narrative threads, underscoring the team's scrappy approach to filling critical voids. Perhaps the most compelling display of all came from Aaliyah Boston, who delivered an all-around quality effort that perfectly encapsulated her importance to the team's structural integrity. Boston finished the evening with 12 points and 8 assists, demonstrating her capacity not only to score in the paint but also to facilitate the offense, utilizing her presence to draw defenders and open up opportunities for her teammates. These collective efforts secured the victory and, more importantly, instilled the kind of confidence and rhythm necessary for a deep postseason push. The numbers etched into the final box score tell the story of a team hitting its stride at the most opportune moment, transforming internal momentum into verifiable wins. The context surrounding the Minnesota Lynx's approach to this late-season matchup, however, demands careful consideration. The Lynx, having already assured themselves of the coveted #1 seed in the conference since the close of August 30th, were operating under a completely different set of priorities. For them, the priority was player health and preservation, a strategic decision towards the end of a grueling regular season. This approach led to the conspicuous absence of all-star forward Napheesa Collier, a true cornerstone of the Lynx franchise. Collier, who had been maintaining MVP-caliber statistics by averaging 23 points and 7.4 rebounds per game, rested on Tuesday specifically to mitigate injury risks. Her healing from earlier ankle injuries this season only amplified the calculated caution of the Lynx coaching staff. The message from Minnesota was unmistakable and obvious: keep their core healthy, primed, and rested for an unhindered and healthy playoff run, treating the final regular season game as a necessary rest period rather than a competitive clash. While Minnesota's decision casts a slight shadow of qualification over the magnitude of the Fever's victory, it in no way diminishes the crucial psychological uplift or the practical benefits Indiana derived from the win. The Fever had reached the playoffs, booking their spot after that emphatic win, but their exact seeding remained fluid, contingent on the final outcomes of the last few games played by Golden State. Indiana was poised to claim the 6th seed if Golden State suffered losses in all of its remaining contests. Otherwise, Indiana would settle into the 7th seed due to an operative tiebreaker favoring Golden State. This scenario meant the pressure was significantly lower than a winner-take-all scenario, yet coach Stephanie White demonstrated remarkable discipline and foresight in her utilization of this unique situation. White refused to sit out her important players or engage in frantic, desperate experimentation with wild, untested lineups during this final game. Her strategy was nuanced and focused entirely on internal refinement rather than external score chasing. This approach was particularly telling given the sheer volume of adversity the Fever had overcome throughout the season. The team had been battered by a relentless series of issues, including 5 season-ending injuries that sidelined vital core players like Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Ari McDonald, and Chloe Bibby. The severity of these losses had forced the Fever to add a number of players utilizing hardship waivers, fundamentally changing the composition and chemistry of the roster mid-flight. The emergence of Odyssey Sims perfectly exemplifies the necessity of this adaptation. Since her signing on August 10th, Sims has swiftly transitioned into the starting point guard role and has become a major contributor to the scoring effort and floor management. Recognizing the necessity of integrating these newer parts into a cohesive system, White viewed the matchup against the resting Lynx as an invaluable, non-negotiable opportunity. It was a chance to provide meaningful, high-quality repetitions for her established lineups and, crucially, to refine the rotational patterns that will be absolutely critical once the pressure cooker environment of the playoffs begins. This calculated risk, playing the key contributors in a game without the stress of playoff seeding, was a deliberate strategic investment intended to better prepare the Indiana Fever for the inevitable rigors, intensity, and precision required in the upcoming postseason. The final regular season game was transformed from a perfunctory obligation into an intensive high-level practice session designed to forge a coherent identity out of necessity and hardship, culminating in a victory that signaled the end of a long, difficult chapter and the opening of a promising, unpredictable new one. The Fever did not just win, they calibrated their engine, tested their limits, and declared themselves ready to compete on the biggest stage. The final buzzer echoes through Gainbridge Fieldhouse, not as a period of finality on a struggling campaign, but as the triumphant punctuation mark on a decade of striving. The scoreline, 83-72, etched a historical footnote that will resonate throughout the annals of the Indiana Fever franchise, their first regular season finishing above 500 in 10 years. This victory over the top-seeded Minnesota Lynx was more than just a notch in the win column. It was the definitive declaration that this iteration of the Fever, tempered by trial and forged in resilience, is absolutely not the team to be underestimated as the playoffs commence. The sheer improbability of the 24-20 record, the team's first winning campaign since 2015, underscores the magnitude of the accomplishment. It is statistical proof, tangible and undeniable, that the commitment to development and perseverance has finally yielded a significant return. The closing stages of the season demanded high-stakes performances, and the key players delivered with a fierce urgency. Kelsey Mitchell, the star guard whose consistent scoring has often kept the Fever afloat during tumultuous stretches, paced the team once more, dropping 18 points. That final flourish pushed her season average firmly over the 20 points per game mark, an impressive feat that cements her status as one of the league's most potent offensive threats and a beacon of stability for a team constantly shuffling its deck. But the story of this final critical win is equally defined by the emerging depth, a necessity born out of devastating circumstances. Odyssey Sims, signed relatively recently on August 10 via hardship waiver, has transitioned seamlessly into the starting point guard role, demonstrating the profound value of clutch veteran experience. Sims contributed 13 points, displaying the immediate impact and scoring prowess that coach Stephanie White sought when she brought the guard into the fold. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston continued to demonstrate her all-around quality, anchoring the interior with 12 points and complementing the backcourt scoring efforts with an impressive 8 assists. Boston's multidimensional impact is perhaps the most promising indicator for the Fever's playoff longevity, a consistent engine providing both scoring and crucial facilitation in high-pressure moments. This collective effort, resulting in a humbling of the dominant Lynx, served as a final comprehensive dress rehearsal, validating the development process that has spanned several challenging years. The context surrounding the Minnesota Lynx's approach to this final regular season matchup, while not diminishing the Fever's achievement, provides a crucial layer of strategic analysis. Already assured of the coveted number 1 seed since the 30th of August, the Lynx adopted a calculated strategy of preservation. Player health became the paramount concern, an understandable priority given the grueling nature of the WNBA season and the high stakes of the upcoming playoff bracket. Consequently, All-Star forward Napheesa Collier, a legitimate contender for the Most Valuable Player award who averages 23 points and 7.4 rebounds per game, was strategically rested. This decision, aimed at mitigating injury risks, especially significant since Collier had already battled ankle injuries earlier in the season, created a glaring vacuum in the Lynx lineup. While the Lynx's approach was an obvious, tactical maneuver to ensure their core remained healthy for a deep championship run, it allowed the Fever to exploit the resulting void. The victory remains entirely earned, but the strategic decision by the Lynx highlights the differing pressures each team faced, with Indiana carrying the weight of history and validation, and Minnesota carrying the weight of ultimate expectation. For the Fever, the game offered a unique opportunity, high intensity without the crushing burden of needing the result to definitively secure the playoff berth. Though they had already clinched their spot, the seeding remained precarious. Their final position, either the 6th or 7th seed, was contingent on the results of the final few games involving Golden State. If Golden State were to lose all of their remaining games, Indiana would assume the 6th seed. Otherwise, a tiebreaker favoring Golden State would slot the Fever into the 7th position. Regardless of this looming uncertainty, Coach Stephanie White approached the game not as a chance to rest her stars, but as a priceless final opportunity for crucial refinement. This determination to use the game for quality repetitions, or quality reps, for the lineups was a direct reflection of the unprecedented injury crisis that has plagued the Fever throughout the season. The team's resilience becomes even more astounding when considering they navigated the second half of the schedule facing 5 season-ending injuries to absolutely vital players. including Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Ari McDonald, and Chloe Bibby. This devastating gauntlet of misfortune forced the franchise to acquire multiple players through hardship waivers, effectively reconstituting their rotation on the fly. The fact that the Fever not only maintained competitive play but surged to a winning record under these conditions is a testament to the coaching staff's ability to integrate new talent swiftly and the players' unwavering commitment to the next-up mentality. The decision by Coach White to avoid experimenting with wildly different lineups or sitting out the key players was a meticulously crafted plan intended to better prepare the current consolidated roster for the intensity of the playoffs. With Sims now firmly established as the starting point guard and the rotations finally gaining a semblance of continuity after weeks of necessary adjustments, White utilized this matchup against the league leaders to fine-tune the team's chemistry. This experience, earned in a game where the pressure was concentrated on execution rather than seeding survival, proved invaluable. It allowed the Fever to practice their offensive sets against elite defensive schemes, hone their communication under duress, and reinforce the late-game closing strategies that will be essential in the single-elimination scenarios of the postseason tournament. The team needed continuity, and White provided it, using the Lynx game as a final rigorous examination. The strong finish, crowned by the decisive victory over Minnesota, provided the Hoosiers with the momentum and, more importantly, the psychological armor necessary for the playoffs. The 2-4-20 record stands as a firm foundation, a statement that the developmental phase is complete and the competitive phase has begun in earnest. It is a historical marker that closes the book on a difficult decade and opens the door to a future defined by winning campaigns. The Fever has demonstrated a high ceiling, overcoming tremendous adversity while integrating new pieces that instantly became vital contributors. As the team now waits for the final dominoes to fall regarding the Golden State results, their identity is clear. They are a resilient, deep, and determined squad. They have navigated the choppy waters of an injury-laden season, secured their first winning record in almost a decade, and proven their capacity to defeat the league's top contenders, even if those contenders were prioritizing health. This is a team that has found its rhythm, refined its rotations, and earned the respect of the league. Whether they enter the playoffs as the 6th or the 7th seed, the Indiana Fever arrives not merely as a participant, but as a legitimate threat, carrying the confidence born of hard-won success and ready to make a significant impact on the postseason stage. The crucible is set, and the Fever, finally above 500, is prepared for the fire.